As spiritual aspirants who are using the path of Western magic as our means of connecting with our God self and actually housing the Holy Spirit in our bodies so that we can attain our birthright of divine humanity, we oftentimes interact with a being or a spirit that's called the Daemon. Now, you can read up on the Daemon. You can Google it, first of all, Daimon, but you'll encounter it in discussions of Socrates and his Daemon. So it's like a little spirit that would whisper no when he was about to make a mistake. It's definitely a Greek concept. And the idea is when you took the incarnation, you took it with an intent, so you're essentially an angel, but an angel has no form and is out of time, so outside of time. So then you take a form, which is your incarnation. You choose one, and then you're also gifted by the fates with a daemon. So your daemon is like a familiar, except that it's not just something that does your bidding, although it does do that, but it specifically exists to be able to take your messages or your questions or your communications up to God, or really your angel, you as an angelic being, and also to take the messages from your angel back down to you. So it basically is a spirit, a principle of spirit that can penetrate or enter matter. So another great place to study if you want to learn about the daemon and that which remembers your intent so that you can begin to get back on the path and kind of not get deviated into things that your personality likes or things that you think you should do because your parents told you to or whatever, trying to figure out who you are individually, what was your specific purpose, and then actually living it. So the daemon, you might want to also check out Mercury or Hermes, read up on the god Hermes, because that principle, we think of it as this winged messenger or something that had wings. He had wings on his feet, or he has wings on his feet. So that god can also teach you a lot about Mercury in your chart. So that's Mercury in your birth chart will tell you how best to interact with it, which is the sign of your Mercury, as well as the department of life that is best suited for you to work with it. So let's say you have your Mercury in a certain sign, let's just say it's Aries. So what you want to do is you can look up, so do a little bit of research on Mercury and the daemon, and basically that just hold in your mind this idea that it's that thing that's been whispering to me when I've had synchronicities, when I've had nudges, when I've had feelings like this is an important moment in my life, or don't do that, or do that. When you've had those epiphanies that just come out of nowhere, that's the daemon. So understand that, and then also read up. There's some books, really good books written, like one by Patrick Harper on the daemon. So read a little bit, Google a little bit, but mainly reflect on your life. When were those times that you've had those messages? And then you can begin to talk with the daemon, begin to ask questions. If you simply ask a question, and you can feel it foolish at first, asking a question and then sort of looking around, you have to hold the question a bit and then see what comes to you, see what the signs are that come, that you're creating a synchronicity. But the one that's organizing that for you is the daemon, because it remembers your intent for coming here. So you can direct it to tell you, hey, what was my intent for coming here? So once you know that, and then let's say the sign, so in my example, Aries, then you're asking the question, how will my daemon communicate with me, and how can I best communicate with the daemon? So in Aries, you just look up Aries just in general. What is Aries? You learn that it's something where it's like very fiery, impulsive, getting things going. So you could say to yourself, you just start with any reasoning at all. You could say to yourself, well, starting new projects or being that type of a leader and starter, if I have like an organization that I'm working with, by me self-consciously taking on that Aries role, that's an opportunity for the daemon to communicate with me. Or I can do activities like that, like say I can do martial arts, and I can with the intent of getting an answer to something, because the daemon listens when I'm in an Aries mode, and the daemon may communicate with me that way too. And definitely, keep a journal. That's something that we all do in magic because that's how we learn. That's how we go, okay, that worked, that didn't work. This is what happened today. That's okay, that's a clue for how to interact with my daemon. So you just look up the sign and say, that's the answer to the question, how? Now, of course, I have aspirations to do more videos. I have a long list now of things that I owe to you guys, but I will. But still, I'd say just start Googling. And then the other piece of it is, in what house is your Mercury? So the house that it's in will say the type of activity that's best suited, because every house is a department of life. So if you just look up let's say you have in your fifth house, what is the fifth house? Well, it's creation, it's like creating art, it's pleasure, it's love affairs. So it's that whole idea of spontaneous creation. So if you have it in the fifth house, for example, then any of those fifth house activities, so the easiest thing to think about is through art, through creating something, but whatever type of art it may be, poetry, songwriting, it could be, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. You'll figure out what's good for you. But anyways, by doing that, that's the best time for your daemon to tell you something, and it's the best time for you to receive something. So if you're then finding yourself doing those activities or intentionally doing them, let's say you write poetry, well, basically writing poetry with intent. So it's like you're actually asking a question, or you had a question, and you suddenly get an idea for a poem, and then lo and behold, that this is giving you the answer you were looking for. So this is just a couple of hints. I hope to make you guys videos, but you can Google, and definitely if you have questions, please feel free to ask me.